So one of them is about laser itself. So this is a good Viva topic. I know of people who have been asked about it, and the first thing that they ask is, what does laser stand for? Which is light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. So what does that mean in real terms? So you have, if you look at the little diagram on the top right, you basically have an external energy source. Normally it's some sort of light or heater or electrical signal, which goes onto the amplifying medium. And the amplifying medium can be solid, it can be gas, I think it can even be liquid. And what it does within the amplifying medium is that it raises the state of the electrons in the amplifying medium. So it raises the electrons to a higher energy state, and then as the electrons drop back down to the lower energy state, they then release radiation themselves. So the light, the radiation that is coming out of a laser isn't from your original light source that's going in, it's from the dropping of the electrons to their lower energy state. They then have a sort of amplifying process where they basically have two mirrors facing each other. One has almost 100% reflectivity, and the other one has, say, 95% reflectivity and allows 5% of the light to go through. I've made those numbers up, but that's the principle. And then you get a highly amplified, highly concentrated laser beam that comes out the other side, which is of a single wavelength because of the way that someone's admitted. So that's the basis of the lasers. With regards to the lasers, so the wavelength depends on the amplifying medium. So most common ones are neodymium, ytterbium, something garnet, aluminium garnet. That's it, ytterbium, aluminium garnet. This NdYAG, and that's the one that is most often used for sort of ENT and urology. Because of the wavelength of light that it gives off is 1064, which gives good penetration into the tissues. I think it's in the region of sort of like 5 to 10 millimeters. And it also allows for, because of the wavelength, it can effectively vaporize and shatter the stones which affect urology. It gets to the patient through a fiber optic cable, which has a whole bunch of physics within it itself. And one of the questions that they like to ask about laser is sort of what safety precautions and what things can go wrong with laser. And basically, it's very safe, provided that the fiber optic cable is still intact. If the fiber optic cable breaks, it is just glass. If it breaks, then laser beams can go all over the place, which then causes issues. With regards to the carbon dioxide, it's 10.6 micrometers, but I couldn't figure out how to do a micrometer, so I've translated it to 10,600 nanometers. CO2 lasers are mostly used in sort of dermatological surgeries, so say removing port wine stains and tattoos and things like that. Argon is between 400 and 700 nanometers, which is in the spectrum of light where it's absorbed by the color red. So that's, I think it's in the visible light spectrum, if memory serves. So it will go through things like vitreous humor without interacting with it. And then as soon as it hits the, say, retina or the retinoblastoma or whatever it is that you're trying to vaporize, which is red, it will then, the energy will be absorbed by that tissue and it will be vaporized. So they use that in eye surgery. With regards to the safety precautions, they love this sort of stuff. And key things to remember is that you should have a laser supervisor in the room who is responsible for switching the laser on, switching the laser off, making sure that everyone in the room has got goggles on which are protective to the correct wavelength of light. quite a lot of places expect you to be putting the goggles on the patient themselves, which seems slightly bizarre when we've taped their eyes closed, but that's by the by. And the doors get locked, and you have blinds on the window that you can't look in through. So if you are over at Eastbourne and you have a laser lift, if you time your coffee break for just before they turn the laser on, then you can't get back in to the surgery afterwards, which can be useful if you're wanting to have a break in order to do some revision for the primary. So just throwing it out there. One of the other lasers, which I already mentioned before, but I didn't find exactly what wavelength it is the holmium laser. So for the holmium enucleation of the prostate, and I think that's a holmium ytterbium aluminium garnet rather than neodymium ytterbium aluminium garnet. But is one of those things that if you're in the Viva, it's impressive if you can pull out a couple of those mediums and what their nanometer wavelength is and what they're used for. You don't need to know a lot, or you don't need to know every single one. Let's put it that way.